What's up guys, hope you guys are having a good day today, and today's video is going to be focused on a North America Challenger player known as Meru. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He was a Challenger player in Season 6 with Pantheon as his main with a 72% win rate. In Season 7 he has over 370 games played with Pantheon and a 3.64 to 1 KDA. He is currently ranked 41 in North America and one of the best Pantheons in North America, so hopefully you guys will find this video useful. So, let's get to it. So first of all, his summoner spells are always Flash and Ignite. Flash is necessary for all laners to escape or chase down enemies, but generally Pantheons take Ignite because of the level 2 stun Q combo all in with the Ignite, as well as to finish opponents. Also, his ultimate is a teleport itself, so he doesn't necessarily need to take teleport. Now, let's get into the runes and masteries. For his runes, Meru has two different rune pages he mainly uses for Pantheon. One page is attack damage reds, magic resist blues, scaling health yellows, and attack damage quintessences. He would use this page when he's playing against a more AP team or against a laner who is not AD based. Since he wouldn't need much armor, he goes for the scaling health to improve his health stats towards late game. Now, the next set of runes he uses is attack damage reds, scaling magic resist blues, armor yellows, and attack damage quintessences. He would use this set of runes when his laner is an AD champion or when 3 of the 5 opponents are AD based. Meru's masteries is always the same. It is 12 under ferocity, 18 under cunning, and 0 under resolve. His keystone is Thunderlord's Decree. This makes sense because Thunderlords activates on the 3rd attack or damaging spell, and in every fight Pantheon has, he uses at least 3 abilities in his WEQ combo, and therefore it would be active in every fight as long as Thunderlords is not on cooldown. Meru's skill order is usually starting with Q, then W, and then E. He maxes Q first, followed by E, then W, and obviously levels up his ultimate whenever he gets the chance to. He only takes W first if his team is invading for the stun. Moving on to the starting items, Meru always starts with Corrupting Potion and the yellow trinket for the sustain. Pantheon's abilities drain his mana pool, so Corrupting Potion is very useful during laning phase. This is followed by Serrated Dirk and Boots of Speed. His boots choice usually depends on who he is laning against, so if he's laning against an AD laner, he gets Ninja Tabby. If he's laning against an AP champion, then he gets Mercury's Treads, or he would get Boots of Swiftness against mobile champions. Once he completes his boots, he goes on to finish Yumu's Ghostblade, then he builds Edge of Night. After this he builds Black Cleaver. These are his core items, which is heavy on armor penetration. Optional items he likes to build are more of Malmortius against AP laners, or if the enemy champions are mainly AP. Another item is Lord Dominic's Regards for armor penetration and Death's Dance for sustain and cooldown reduction. Also, I noticed that he likes to build Dead Man's Plate for tank stats against AD champions or Spirit Visage versus AP champions, but he wouldn't get both of these items in the same game. He would usually get 1 tank item per game and finish with Guardian's Angel. Okay, now that we got the build out of the way, let's look at some tips you could use as Pantheon. Pantheon's passive is extremely important in fights, especially in lane when you want to dive a champion. Note that it is every 4 basic attacks or abilities when the block passive appears, or whenever you use your W. One way what you can consistently do, which is also what Meru does, is to utilize basic attacks in between abilities to build the stacks to get the passive to be turned on. So, as Pantheon is landing basic attacks or abilities, the stacks add from 1 to 3. Then the passive activates on the 4th hit. However, if you are on, let's say, the 2nd stack and you W, the W will activate the passive but will keep the stack to 2, meaning that after you use up the W block, you can continue to build that stack and get another block. If you play Pantheon, you probably do this accidentally if you're unaware of it, but if you are more cautious of it, you can plan your attacks to increase the number of blocks you have in a fight and swing the fight your way. So, one way to utilize Pantheon's passive is to do 3 blocks in a row within a few seconds. So to do this is that you first get 3 stacks on your passive, then you W to the opponent, so the W passive turns on, granting a block. Then you still have 3 stacks, so you throw a basic attack or perform an ability to get the 4th stack, which activates the passive again, giving the second block. After this, you can use your W when it's off cooldown and then get the 3rd block. There are numerous ways to get 3 or more blocks in a fight, but it is about utilizing your basic attacks and abilities in between the cooldowns. This tool is very important to maximizing your damage and minimizing damage taken in teamfights or 1v1s, and I suggest practicing this to get an idea of how to do it correctly. Another tip is that you can use your abilities as your ult lands to the new location. So, you can buffer WQ as you're about to land to catch opponents rather than risking them walking away. This cancels the animation of the WQ by a few frames, but it makes a difference, which you can see in my example. Also, remember you can W over walls as long as you have vision of the area and it is towards a target such as a minion, a monster, an enemy champion. This could be useful and save you using flash, or can be used to juke enemies, as they probably will not expect you to hop over walls as Pantheon. Another tip is that you can flash W to cut the distance and decrease the animation time. This also applies to his Q and E. Okay, so now that we have gone through Pantheon's build and some tips and tricks, let's talk about the advantages of Pantheon as a champion. A big advantage for Pantheon is that he's an excellent laner. He has a great poke with his Q to trade against opponents, or it could be used to last hit if he's getting zoned, so you should always be able to farm. His passive is incredibly useful, and if utilized well, you can easily trade against opponents without them hitting you at all. The fact that his passive can block turret shots makes it easy and less risky to dive, or to finish a low health opponent under tower. Another advantage is that he has a half global ult. He can basically teleport halfway across the map and use it to trap the enemy as a gank if they are pushing too much. He can also use it in objective fights, such as if your team is taking Drake and you want to zone the enemy out using your ult. There's many ways to use his ultimate, which you can explore. Another advantage of Pantheon is that he is a point-click champion, meaning he does not have any skill shot abilities, so this is good for players who struggle to land skill shots, and all you have to do is to be in range against your opponent, and then you can do your combo. One more advantage of Pantheon is that he snowballs very well. So if he's ahead, it's going to be very hard for the opponent laner to catch up. As long as Pantheon is present in lane, he should be dominating, unless it gets into the late game. Now let's talk about the disadvantages of Pantheon. As I said, Pantheon can snowball really well, but that is only effective if you manage to close the game before late game, because in late game he falls off pretty hard. If Pantheon is laning against someone like Jax, during late game you aren't going to be able to 1v1 him. Another disadvantage is that he is a glass cannon, meaning that he does a lot of damage but he's squishy. He's not like champions such as Darius where you can build half tank and still do decent damage. So if you're fighting a team with high damage output, you can easily get bursted. Another disadvantage is that he uses up a lot of mana. In laning, if you want to poke your opponent at every opportunity that you get, you're eventually going to run out of mana, so you have to make sure when you do trade it leads to something like a gank from your team, or at least you going all in and getting the kill. Overall, I think Pantheon is a great pick if you want to dominate your lane and snowball hard, but remember that you should aim to finish the game before late game, otherwise you become less significant in team fights. He counters late game champions like Jax, Nasus, Riven because of the reasons I mentioned, so utilize your early game and snowball hard. So that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. Please like, comment, subscribe, share this with your friends if you want this channel to grow. Leave a comment on what other champions you'd like to see me make a video about, and I'll eventually do it. Also, because this is one of my first videos, I want to make sure I get the execution right to make it as informative and enjoyable for you viewers. So if there's any feedback in terms of my layout, my commentary, the topics that I go over, then please leave a comment or message me and I'll do my best to adjust it to make it better for you guys, because I want to make sure that I do these videos to the highest standard that I can. So any feedback would be appreciated, as long as it's reasonable. And if you want to know more about the background music, I'll put it in the description below. Thank you guys for watching and stay tuned for more videos.